Welcome back to the Level Up and Live podcast. I'm your host, Sean Myers, and today we have an awesome guest in the virtual studio, Brandon Cron, the one and the only. Brandon is a business leader, entrepreneur, and mentor. So by day, he's a sales manager, but in his entrepreneur drive, it led him to own Jeremiah's Italian Ice in Montgomery County, Texas, alongside his wife, Holly. He's also a dedicated mentor, faith-based leader, athlete, musician, and HOA president. We're diving into his journey of business, leadership, and growth. Brandon, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, good morning, Sean. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to be with you and your guests around all of Montgomery and everybody that enjoys listening to this podcast. We'd love to have more join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. Let's dive right into it, man. So I'm curious, man. My first question here is for you is you've been in sales and marketing with Tempur Sealy for over a decade now, over 10 years. So what made you decide to take the leap into business ownership with Jeremiah's Italian Ice?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question regarding the full-time job, which is still Tempur Sealy. And, that's an amazing job. Really, it's a perspective of while being an account manager and working with the local stores, the furniture stores, sleep shops, you really get to focus on helping people sleep better, at the end of the day. So there's a great health aspect to working with Tempur Sealy. It's a wonderful company. Definitely look forward to having many more years with them. And, we can go down that path a little bit more on sleep and health when we get there. I will say that the competitive advantage that my wife, Holly, and I have is, at this point in time in our life, we don't have kids. We do have the ability to have a little bit more flexibility. We do have dual incomes. We look at it from a perspective of what can we do if we're not in this part of our life, but what are we doing in our life that we can really grow and be better at? The whole journey of getting to actually Jeremiah's Italian Ice kind of goes back a little bit, maybe more on my personal journey, where just kind of growing up and being around my dad, he was in sales for many, many years. He worked for NCR. If you're familiar with them, you might see them on a cash register as you're checking out at the grocery store. But he spent many years there, and I was always fascinated by a lot of what he did, asked a lot of questions, and he was always a great guide for me. Long and short, I kind of got into the sales category as well for myself as I graduated, but I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial attitude, spirit, like, hey, what can I do more? Where are we going from here? And the interesting part is I actually ended up going to the University of Central Florida in Orlando and lived in Winter Park. Winter Park is where the first Jeremiah's Italian Ice started back in 1996. So just being around college friends, buddies, we'd go golf, and at the end of a day of golf, we'd go over and grab Jeremiah's Italian Ice. So from the familiarity of the brand, it was something that I kind of enjoyed, something I was interested in, and, definitely enjoyed from time to time. So the brand was there. The awareness was there. On the other path, going through business and starting my sales career and then eventually working with Tempur Sealy and whatnot, the excitement there is you get to a point where, okay, well, I love what I'm doing. I don't have kids. And, what else can I do? So, well, we started volunteering. So my wife and I, we started volunteering in Houston. We actually moved over. She's in aviation, which is a wonderful place. She loves anything airplanes. So I'm super excited for her to be in that position. Yet when you come home at the end of the day, do you feel fulfilled, or do you want to do something more? Yes. We started going to church at the Ark Church in Conroe, Texas, and very excited to have been there for well over 10 years now as well. And sometimes you show up to church and you show up and then you leave. You show up to church and then you leave. Again, it's going back to the wanting more.
Yes.
So we started volunteering with the youth program there. And again, over 10 years, we've been volunteers, and we've been very excited to be a part of these young people's lives. And, it's crazy when you see a sixth grader that you started with, and next thing you know, to put it in perspective, they're at a point where they're getting married, they're having their own children, and they're coming back and visiting. And it's, oh my gosh, the the feeling that you get of seeing these people. Yeah, so the reason of kind of coming and going for church is great. Yet we also kind of wanted to do more. We wanted to be more fulfilled. So we started volunteering with the youth program there at the Ark Church, and for over 10 years now, we've been visiting on Wednesdays and Sundays and really being able to provide service to the church, to the youth groups. And what's great about this is, we've been there for so long that, you start to see the sixth graders really turn into wonderful people, and some that are even married, have their own children. So, we've been able to really see their journey as well. And we've been blessed to see the results of that. And just out of being there for, again, over a decade, you start to hear stories about, hey, where are you going to work? What are you doing over the summer? And just over time and being around them enough, it was kind of like, what, maybe there's a connection here. What can I do more to help? Mm-hmm. And just out of talking with Holly and just kind of working through where we are, we kind of throw some jokes around here and there about like, hey, what if we did this? Or, hey, what if we did that? And it came to where she surprised me one day with a Jeremiah's Italian Ice that happened to be opened up in the Houston area. So it is a franchise, and there was one not too far away. And she said, surprise, man, she really did a great job trying to find something that would really pique my interest and make me super happy. Yeah. And, you start pushing these things together, and we said, well, what if we just owned an ice cream machine, or an ice cream store, I should say. Okay. And, it kind of becomes realistic sometimes. And okay, maybe we can do this. And again, pieces start coming together. Okay, well, what if we did a Jeremiah's Italian Ice? We have our own ice cream shop. These young people are looking for a place to work. They're looking for a great place to be. What if we can become an extension of that? So that's really how this journey starts coming together in pieces. So
man, that's beautiful, man. Full circle, right? 10 years, you've been serving, you've been impacting, and now these individuals have gotten older. And so, man, that's such a beautiful journey. And now they're coming to work for something bigger than themselves, a bigger cause. And I know you've got a story behind that, and we'll get into that. We'll definitely dive into that later in the episode, because I definitely want you to dive deeper on the story behind it. For our listeners and audience that are listening to this, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from manifesting, visualizing, starting a business, but we all know it's not for the faint of heart. And have y'all had a grand opening yet, Brandon?
Yeah, we did a block party. First part of March, and we did a really great job, I would say. Team effort between my wife and I. We really got the word of mouth out there to start. Again, hey, we're part of the community in Conroe and North Houston. We really wanted to reach out to everybody that we knew, everybody we could talk to, and say, hey, please come support us. We're part of the Christian business leaders as well. So like-minded individuals of business owners, and, the Ark Church. Another story, Holly's an Ironman, so she's done that competition. So there's a whole athletic community out there. We're also part of CrossFit Anava right now. So, we love being there. That is our true passion when it comes to being healthy and really pushing ourselves. So there's a world of people that we are just connected with that we absolutely love. And we asked hey, could you come support us for this block party on this Saturday? And then, of course, we went through the grassroots. I guess grassroots now is social media. You got to reach out to people and really get those Facebook posts out there and get people to connect. And we had to do a lot of, hey, would you like this? Would you put interested on the Facebook post for us, so that way it generates more interest? And sure enough, people showed up. It was an amazing day. It really, I think, was a great way of kind of letting the community know that we exist. We're here. We're open. The takeaway is we could go back and dive in a little bit more, but the location had actually been open.
Yeah, I want to know your biggest lessons. So any surprises or lessons that you've learned since becoming that small business owner from the block party?
Okay. So somebody might say, okay, well, where do you have time to do all of this extra stuff?
Yes.
So the extra time, I kind of reference one of our competitive advantages is that we don't have kids, So when we look at it, yes, we have full-time jobs. A lot of other people have full-time jobs and kids. And what do? They're taking their kids to soccer practice. They're taking their kids to dance lessons, guitar practice, whatever it is.
Right.
And since we don't have that, we're kind of using that to contribute time to our kids, which we call them because they're not necessarily ours, but we definitely mentor, we serve them, we take care of them, and that's our time there. The other is for time, I call it my Netflix time. So some people want to sit down and watch Netflix. It's really hard for me to sit down that long. I really struggle. I just have to keep moving. So you got to find time. You got to find the time, and wherever that comes from, that's going to drive your ability to operate that business. Again, the full-time job, that's part of it. We want to focus on that. We want to do a great job there. We want to be successful. We want to make our numbers, hit our goals. Then we also need to transition because we want to focus as a team with myself and Holly. And then, of course, our employees, we want to be successul there. So
That's
again,
beautiful.
time management there.
Time management is a huge one. And I know I resonate so much with that. And I always say this, your priorities. So show me your calendar. I'll show you your priorities and what's important to you in your life. And I bet you if you showed me your calendar, it would be stacked, right? It's not Netflix from 2 to 5 and, scrolling on social media from 4 to 6. You're out there manifesting, visualizing, serving and impacting others that is aligned with your goals and dreams. And I think that's where it all starts is, growth. And that's the mindset that you have with you and Holly. And it's such a beautiful thing. So I want to touch on investing in people because I think you're in your 30s, right?
A little bit older, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So age is just a number, right? But from my experience, I have found that typically in your 20s and upper 30s, not till about 35, you kind of go through this pain cave. I call it the pain cave of, you know what? I'm going to do things on my own. I'm looking external houses, cars, watches, Amazon purchases, boats, all these different things. Then you come to a place, typically around 35, the man matures. We mature and go, I'm not happy. I'm unfulfilled. This is not what it's all about, right? Yeah. It's not about the accolades. It's not about more money, more cash. It's going to leave you miserable. It's going to leave you stuck, lost, unfulfilled, and in the rat race. And so what I'm hearing you say is that by investing in people, by pouring into others and serving and impacting, this business is that vehicle to do that. So you focus on hiring these young individuals at Jeremiah's. How do you approach mentoring and preparing them for success beyond just the job?
Yeah, absolutely. And to touch briefly, you mentioned priorities. You have the mindset of, is it a priority? Or I think the typical response that we respond to people when they ask for something or we're trying to connect with somebody is, hey, are you available? Or how has it been? And the typical word is busy. So are we busy or is it a priority? And, we may have processed that at some point in time in our lives or in our mind when we've tried to connect. The takeaway is we want to make these young people a priority, right? Busy can be a word that just says, oh, we're doing things. Yeah. Priority says, I'm putting you to the front of the line. I'm focusing on you. Yeah. Focusing is making sure that, hey, we have a great place for you to work. We have a great place for you to hang out. Even if you don't want to work for us, we have a great place for you to come enjoy. We've got a sweet treat that you're going to absolutely walk in and you're going to be happy, and you're going to be happier after you leave, because you enjoyed something great. So our priority is, one, to make a great place for them to work, but also a great place to be if they need a place or want a place to go. So, and that extends everywhere, just our relationships that we have with people. We'll connect with people in church or out at the gym or whatnot. I really challenge people to say, hey, do this as well. And here's what it is. If somebody says, hey, we're having a get together over at our house this weekend. Let's say we've never met up before outside of our common area, which let's say is a gym. Well, if they ask you, our rule between myself and Holly is we're doing everything we can to say yes.
Mm.
We're not going to say, oh, we're busy. We
Yes.
want to make that a priority because we want to connect with that person. We want to connect with those people. How many times does an invite come your way and you're like, oh, I've already got something scheduled or something's already there. And then you think about it, it's like, I could probably move that around because I want to shift my priorities because connecting with people, I think, goes a lot further than me having to do laundry or, hey, I needed to paint the house or whatever. We've got a lot going on, So what actually makes a bigger impact in that moment of time? So I really try to refocus that to make priority versus busy. So
How do you know? I'm curious with me, like me individually, like the only way I know my priorities is because it's aligned with my beliefs, my values, and who I'm wanting to become. And in this season of life and where I'm at, it's giving back, right? The podcast, mastermind group, the business development class, all these different empowering my team. That's all I spend my time doing is because those are my priorities. That is what not only brings me fulfillment, and the byproduct of that is, people listening to this, well, that's great, Sean and Brandon. You guys can do that. I'm still in the hustle stage and the grind stage, making the money, head down, trying to make things happen. And that may be true, but all we're saying is to make sure that you're, in my experience, is reflecting back on, is this bringing fulfillment? And if it's not, then just be aware of it. There was a mentor once told me that there was an interview done by a CEO, a billionaire CEO. I'm not sure the name of it or name of him, but in the interview, he had asked the questions like, how did you get to become a billionaire? Like,
hmm,
what in the world? And of course, it's a $1 billion question, right? There's so many things, so many variables. And you know what he said, Brandon? He
I'm
said,
very curious.
he said, self-awareness.
Oh, yep.
Self-awareness was the key ingredient for him to get to that billionaire status. And of course, that's a whole nother conversation. But that's exactly what we're talking about right now. You are self-aware on what brings you fulfillment, on what you are trying to visualize and manifest for you and your wife. And you are self-aware of what your priorities are. And a lot of times when we go to the Netflix and drink the alcohol and scroll on social media, we're not self-aware. So the priorities become somebody else's agenda or priorities. And so we're just sweeping it underneath the rug. We at Level Up and Live, we call it stare it down. And so it just, I resonate with 100% on with what you're saying as far as priorities. And I love that you're saying that. And I'm curious with you, man, with faith, because we mentioned this a couple of times. I know it's a big part of your life.
Yeah.
How has faith played a role in both your corporate career in the last 10 years and this entrepreneur journey?
So part of mentoring our youth groups at our church, that actually expanded into something even better. It's amazing how doors just open everywhere.
Yeah.
When you put the effort forward, and one of the worship leaders, we start service with amazing worship music, really gets me going. It really puts me in the right mindset, the right spirit. And he was looking for an electric guitarist, to join. And this is years
Yeah.
ago. Well, I had dabbled with the guitar. I had a guitar. I can't say I was amazing at it, but it was one of those I kept around the room and, self-taught. It's just, okay, what songs do I like? What would I want to play? And I kind of raised my hand on that one. I said, you know what, I'd really be interested in playing electric guitar for you. And
Really?
he invited me to audition,
Mm.
and I was put into a position where I guess I was prepared in my mind until I showed up. And it was probably one of the most difficult things that I went through. Just it was
Mm.
something that I wanted so badly, but I guess I was too new at it.
Yeah.
I don't think I was good enough, so I had a
Mm.
lot of self-doubt in the moment. But what I really love is he actually reached out to me later. He says, you know what? We can tell that you really want to be here. We can tell that you really want to do this. We see that you have some skill on the guitar. And 2 weeks later, he's got me on a stage with a guitar playing. And, you know, sometimes you just have to throw yourself in there.
Yeah.
And the takeaway is, you know what? Faith has led me into a position to be able to do great things. And I'll tell you, years later, I have been around great people who also play guitar. That was one of the benefits. You know, God has definitely put the right people in position around me to make me better, which I absolutely appreciate. You know, somebody will say, hey, maybe if you try playing it this way, and it
Mm.
unlocks something else I never saw, but it allowed me to expand my abilities. So that way, as I kind of play, oh, I added a new tool, or somebody asked me, how do you do this? Well, we kind of think through it and we process and we create new ways or better ways of doing something. And just over time, you know, hey, now I'm to a great position where I do play worship music. I've got the electric guitar. It's not so much, oh, how do I play this as I used to be, but it's more so, what can I do to really make this amazing? So that way I'm putting my glory where it belongs. And at the same time, I'm also having fun and connecting with our students. So there's a really great piece to how faith has really put me into a great position to do more, not only for myself, but to expand that connection that we have with our youth groups.
Dude, I'm sitting here thinking like I've got chills on my body, like my hair's going up. I'm like, not only is Brandon, dude, you're awesome. Like just when I hear you talk and like that your communication is so impactful, like it's so inspirational to me because when you just told that story on faith, what I'm hearing you say the entire time is that's what faith is for me as well. It's like, okay, self-doubt creeps in, fear creeps in, all these things, right? Starting a business, attending church, being a lead guitarist, plugging yourself in to the podcast today, your first time, right? Nobody would have ever guessed, but because of you have faith. And that's that bridge, I feel like, and you're relying on your faith, which brings courage and confidence. And that's the key ingredient is that faith in having to that ability to show up over and over and over again. And I think that's the missing ingredient for a lot of individuals that are wanting to start that business or attend a public speaking class or whatever it may be. And so I couldn't agree with you more. I'm so grateful that you shared that with us.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
with past challenges, because we all face challenges and struggle, but it sounds like you are a type of guy, not only with your faith base. And so I know you've probably relied heavily on that. So pushing past these challenges, you talk about hurdles being moments of discomfort. I
Mm-hmm.
love that saying, like getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. So I'm curious, man, how do you personally push through those moments instead of, you know what, I'm going to turn back and I'm just going to stay complacent?
Yeah, there's a reason why I don't do pole vault in high school. That was a legitimate hurdle that I tried. You know, it is something I walked away from, but, you know, I kind of just reflect on that. And really anything we do in life, you know, we do run into challenges. And I do call it a hurdle, which is a pretty simple way of evaluating something. Whenever we come across a skill, a task, a requirement, somebody asks you to do something, and we have that moment of hesitation because we're not quite sure, that is the hurdle.
Mm.
What do we do with that? That probably says, you know what? I don't know the answer. I'm not familiar with how to do this. I'm afraid to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So do we just say, okay, you know what? This isn't for me, and we walk away? Or do we actually spend time evaluating maybe how do I say this? What
Mm-hmm.
is my response? How do I get better? So, you know, we get into a point where we can literally just stop and leave anything. That is always an option. You know, zero is always an option. Don't do anything, right? I firmly believe, and this is my mindset. So one, you'll notice I celebrate a lot. So I'm on the happier scale of everything. You know, I want people to be happy. I want people to celebrate. I love when I'm working with Temper Sealy and I train adults. You know, I work with adults on understanding sleep better. I work with adults on how to convey a message to their customer because we're at the furniture store. Customer walks in and the customer is interested in sleeping better. Well, you know, we have a wonderful sales team. You know, these are advocates for really hoping that their customer understands how to sleep better through product. I love when I can work with that salesperson to convey the message that, hey, this is how you sleep better. What happens is we get a lot of maybe newer people and they're not so sure what to say or what direction to go, and they hesitate. So for me, I celebrate the moment where it makes sense. Like, hey, what you shared with your customer is absolutely correct about sleep. Yes, the 6 to 8 hours. Yes, your great mattress is going to be around for 8 to 10 years and hopefully beyond.
Yeah.
These are wonderful little things that I like to celebrate. The hurdle itself is anything, so driving down the road and you don't know where you're going because GPS is off or whatever, or you're trying to figure out which house to go to because that's the person you connected with and that's the house that you're going to go hang out for an afternoon. Well, the hesitation is, okay, well, we didn't have maybe the right address. Okay, so what are the gears that we put into place to get us there? So that's also tying into, I guess, beginning with the end in mind. If we have the goal. So my mentality says, you know what? There is nothing that prevents me from learning how to shoot a rocket into space. There's nothing that prevents me from doing that in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of little hurdles that would be required to get over to get there. Do I want to, or is that my passion? Not necessarily. So I'm okay moving away from that. But maybe there's something else that I want to be. Maybe I want to own 5 Jeremiahs or, 5 Jeremiah's Italian Ices by the time I'm a certain age.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to retire by the time I'm 55. All these little goals along the way can present little hurdles, but if I'm getting over them, that means I'm learning. That means I'm progressing. I'm becoming more of an asset to myself and to others.
Man, beautifully said. And I love how you shared that with the end in mind. And so I call it forward thinking, backwards planning. It's like, what does it look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And so many things change over time, right? And we evolve as human beings. Life changes could change in 30, 60, 90 days from now, but it's still good to review that and write that down, or have a vision board, or have, a cutout of a magazine. And so these different things just allow you to dream and visualize. I think, a lot of times I know a lot of people in my life that I've met over the years that they, I think there's a statistic, you die in your 20s, like 21, 22, and you're just living in this body. And then, hoping for, I'm here for retirement. And then that's when you're supposed to be living. And in my mind, it's like, no, the here and the now is the key ingredient, like being present. And sure, you can still focus on these North Stars in who you're wanting to become. And yeah, bring on more problems, bring on more challenges, because it's who you become when you go through those obstacles and those struggles. And you can't do it alone, and I've learned that in my age now. It's like, okay, I need somebody outside of Sean. I need to get outside of myself, and I need a higher power. I need a bigger cause. And that's my creator, and so when you tap into that and surround yourself with other individuals having these conversations, man, there's so much untapped potential within all of us. And everything that you're saying, I couldn't agree with you more. You had mentioned writing things down. And I'm curious, man, on writing things down, because my previous guest, Cody Snyder, also owns Aquarium Maintenance. He loves writing things down. I write down in my journal, and to a certain degree, everybody kind of does it differently and how they do it. I write down what I'm grateful for. I write down what my tasks, responsibilities, and a lot of people go even deeper on that. But how has this practice of journaling and writing things down for you shaped your decision making and execution?
I think a lot of people would love to be able to say, hey, everything you tell me, I will absorb, I will remember, and I'll be able to recall it anytime that I want. The reason why I like to write notes down, meetings or conversations, if I meet somebody new, I'll write down their name real quick just so I have it available to me. It's brain space. That's all I have to say. It's brain space. Yes. My brain I think it's wonderful, but there's a lot of things that are coming in and a lot of things that are going out. So,
yes,
I challenge myself to remember some things along the way, but I'm comforting myself in knowing that I've written it down. If I forget, I know where to go. So a lot of strategic thinking goes with, okay, well, I don't remember the answer, but I know where to get it.
Mm.
We're really good about enjoying listening to others. We love that maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes that we have of a presentation from someone. You know what? You don't have to scribble everything down that the person is saying, but when you hit a bullet point that, hey, that resonates with you, just
Yes.
write it down.
Yeah.
And what that's doing is, one, it's ingraining into your mind a little bit better because you did write it down. That strategy of what you hear, you only retain a certain percent. But if you write it down, that percent is obviously a bit better. So you get to a point where your brain is now, I think, overloaded because there's so much going on.
Mm.
And you just need a place to dump it.
Mm.
You dump it, great. That's stored. It's a hard drive that's not physical, right? For yourself. I think I've also mentioned that, I think the way my brain works, it's less like Chick-fil-A and more like Sesame Street. So Sean, you're going through Chick-fil-A. What do they serve?
Chicken,
right? They do a great job of really doing basically one thing. They're so focused.
Yes.
And I don't know. Did you grow up with Sesame Street a little bit here and there?
A little bit. I was more Power Rangers.
Rangers. There you go. Okay. So Sesame Street, if you ever get a chance, or for those who did grow up on Sesame Street, it's a minute of this. It's 2 minutes of this. It's just constantly moving around, but it's around a common theme.
Yeah.
So Sesame Street is my brain constantly just going back and forth between ideas and thoughts and what's next and scheduling and coordinating. So it's more project based, I guess, instead of that, hey, focus on that one thing. I'm kind of a little bit all over the place, but for that moment, that's what I'm focused on. So I look at a lot of my work, a lot of my priorities in a term of what needs to get done. So a little bit of focus on that.
That's good. And I know Holly, I got an opportunity to meet her a few weeks ago. And man, I'm sure she probably helps you stay in line because I got to know a little bit about her personality.
Oh my goodness gracious.
You're smiling ear to ear right now.
Oh, I love her so much. Oh my gosh. So I will give you our challenge first. Our challenge is that we both do so much.
Yes.
That it's almost competitive to the point where we're almost telling each other, but I've done this and I've done this. And we don't feel like the other is ever doing enough because we've done so much. So I've done this, I've done that. What have you done? Yeah. And then she's like, well, I've done this and I've done this. Well, what have you done? So in some respects, I try to definitely look and see all the things that she's done. She puts a ton of work into obviously her aviation and into Jeremiah's. She does a lot of the admin connecting work. I've got a lot of maybe the tradesmanship of going in and fixing things around the store, coordinating, helping out with hiring as well. So we each kind of have our own tasks. Our own battle is that we want to do as much as we can together, but we also need to recognize that we're both working very hard to make this one thing work, right?
Yes.
So we battle our competitiveness of getting things accomplished.
Well, and that's beautiful because you guys, it sounds like you have an understanding and you're also obviously self-aware, and it's tough, right? Being in working 2 full-time jobs, doing, giving back, HOA president, all these things that you have going on and these different hats that you're wearing. And so sometimes that can cause, friction, and because you're just always on the go, right? And so I believe, as long as we stay humble, grounded, and in this faith path, purpose-driven path, and making sure we're reflecting back on, are we kind, compassion going through this journey and enduring the process? Because I'll be the first one to admit, like my strong personality, it's easy for me just to go 24/7 because I'm obsessed with it. And it's, and to somebody else, a team member, family, or friend, they're like, holy smokes, dude, this guy never slows down, because we don't have, we don't have kids either. And our kids are team members, friends, family, it's we're always serving and impacting. So that's just what fulfills us and the things that we're doing. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the 35-year-old reflection. So you told yourself 35, which we mentioned early in the episode. about typically when a man peaks, that 35 to 40, or matures. But you told yourself at 35 what you wish you had known at that age, so you wouldn't have regretted it at 45 in your 40s. So what are some of those lessons, and how have they shaped your journey?
Yeah, Sean, that is such a phrase that I think we've all said. Oh, if I only knew that at 25.
Yes.
Now that we're 35 or 45. And the concept there is, well, at 25, we're learning, we're adding concepts, we're adding skills. And then when we become 35, we say, oh man, if I had known at 25 what I know at 35, I would have been amazing. I would have been great. I would have been ahead of the game. So I fully anticipate that when I turn at some point in time 45, what did I learn along the way? So I don't have to say that,
Mm-hmm.
So some of those perspectives, I'll say, from a financial perspective, I listen to financial podcasts. I think that's an interest that everybody needs to have a little bit of awareness of,
Yep.
What is their goal financially?
Yep.
Is that to own your own business? Is that to support other businesses? Is that to be a philanthropist and own a business? Like, what are we looking at here?
Yeah.
Mine was to be able to say that I could retire early. I don't want to, but to be able to say that I could.
Yeah.
And one of those forward thinking thoughts is, why wait till 45 to really start planning some of that gap? So we know 59 and a half is about the time when you can start taking retirement. So there's probably a gap between 55 and 59 and a half in terms of age. So a lot of people later on in life realize, oh, well, maybe I need to start saving so I can kind of bridge that gap. Well, I started doing that, around the age of 35, where I started creating kind of that bridge account, if you will. So now that I'm a little bit older than 35, that account has been growing, and I'm preparing myself to be able to bridge between that time that I'd like to maybe retire and could retire. So rather than waiting until I'm 45 and saying, oh, had I done this at 35, I did it at 35.
Yes.
Now I don't have to go back and say that. So, but take that with any skill or any awareness of how to operate, that would be a great thing. What am I doing today that I can take advantage of now? What can I learn? What can I read? Who can I be around to make myself better now?
Man, that's a really good way to look at it. And because a lot of times we're too focused on what's happened to us, in the past. A lot of, I like to use the analogy, the rear view mirror. So you can't get to where you want to go by looking in the rear view mirror. You've got to pick your head up out of the sand, out of the head, the goggles that you have on, and the rear view mirror, and look ahead and see where you're headed. And so putting yourself in that, and it seems like that's a common trend for you and your family, and what you do in your life is looking ahead and visualizing that. And that's obviously gotten you to where you are right now. And now it's only time. Only time is the greatest asset there. So, man, it's so inspiring hearing you say this, because at the end of the day, we all need hope. We all need that empowerment, that encouragement, that inspiration. And I feel like just in the short period of time that you've been on the episode today, you have been able to bring that. So, man, I really, really grateful. Just wanted to share that. Usually I share that at the end of the episode, but
thank you so much. Yeah. You know what? It's a lot about perspective. I think that's what drives me, and perspective can be mental. It could be physical. It's, when you read a book and you see the Eiffel Tower, you try to paint what that looks like in and around you until you actually can put it in perspective, and you're at the Eiffel Tower and you get to see everything around that you couldn't ever get from a picture or a book. You just don't get it until you're there. Same thing with owning a small business. Like, what is it like? Oh my gosh, you don't have perspective until you actually put things in place to be able to do that, right?
Man.
So a lot of what drives me is perspective, and to be able to put that in and, really create from there.
That's incredible, man. I love that. I definitely, before you shot the episode, I knew a little bit about your story, and we met a couple of times, but I feel like we've got a deeper connection now, just hearing some of your perspective and your outlook on life. I'm like, man, I could really see building a relationship with this guy, so, and I'm sure our listeners and audience are hopefully feeling the same way. And And yeah, make sure you get some Jeremiah's Italian ice cream. Where's the location at, by the way?
Yeah, we are located in Conroe, Texas, off
Okay.
of 242.
Yeah.
It's across from the HEB there, Harper's Preserve area. So we are Jeremiah's Italian Ice at Harper's Preserve. You can Google that, look it up. It's right there off of the road there. And we are the giant frog head that if you look at the sign, it'll say Jeremiah's Italian Ice. We've got a wonderful patio. You can walk in, you can enjoy your ice cream, your sweet treat. It's the perfect layer of creating what we call a gelati. It's ice cream. It's real ice cream with the Italian ice. We have 24 different flavors that you can choose from. And we love our employees, our young people who are working there, because they get to be creative with our guests. So if you're not quite sure what you like or want, come in. We'll help figure it out for you. There's a little bit of creativity and creation in the whole process there. And that's really creating that happiness that we love for our guests, for sure.
And I got the opportunity to have a couple different samples a few weeks back, and it was delicious.
I appreciate that.
I recommend it. But I wanted to tap in before we're running out of time. I want to make sure I get these questions in.
For sure.
I'm sure our listeners and audience, they are, gosh, how does he do it all? Like, oh my gosh, he's got a corporate job, a business, mentorship roles, does music, fitness, HOA responsibilities. Dude, Brandon, how do you manage it all without burnout, brother?
Okay, so let's go through that. A couple things. One, you got to have the right attitude and mindset. You got to have the right inspiration and the right people around you. You know, just to throw one more little piece in here, Mr. Rogers, going back to, are you familiar with Mr. Rogers? You know? Yeah. You know, by the way, he did live in Winter Park, Florida. That's that was
interesting.
so where Jeremiah's actually started. So a little connection there.
Yeah, cool.
But he went to Rollins College there as a student and learned music. And one of the phrases that he kind of latched onto is life is service. So life is service. And that's another part that drives me. You know, what can we do to serve others, to make this life amazing? So again, attitude, mentality, having a drive to serve others. Health is absolutely a big part to that. I have so much more energy when I go to CrossFit or work out. And I don't care where you're working out. I don't care if it's walking down the street. Fit is fit. Do something, right?
Yep.
You will be surprised. It's so hard to maybe get something going. But once you're going, or once you set those goals, you'll be surprised how much more energy you have. And it's just the derived enjoyment and happiness that I get from doing these things that says, hey, keep going. You know, I can sit down, I can just sit on a couch and, you know, I don't feel accomplished, but I will take my 10 minutes. I will say, how do I do it? There's a point in time, usually midday afternoon, I will take 10 minutes, shut everything off, close my eyes. I'm not falling asleep. I'm simply just removing stimulus, right?
Yes.
So it's a moment to reflect. It's a moment to stop. It's a moment to refresh and to keep going. So the last part is I do like to always have something to look forward to. And that's either a trip, visiting people, spending time with my brother and his amazing wife, sister-in-law. She is phenomenal. You know, we'll travel. So we're planning trips down the road already. We love to go around the world and enjoy time with them. So always have something to kind of go for. Why are we doing this? Why am I going to work out? You know, what's my goal there? So
and I resonate so much with that because when you said service, I heard you say service earlier. It's like that's been your North Star. It's serving, whether it's at the Ark Church or serving in your business, serving the customers. It seems like a common fulfillment for you. And I resonate so much with that because I wasn't there. I was unfulfilled 3 years ago. And I was wondering why. So long story short, I hired a coach, and this coach slowed me down, right? Self-awareness slowed me down. I started asking myself the questions, what is driving my decisions? And it was all external. It was all accolades. It was all houses, cars, money. And it wasn't leaving me into fulfillment. So I called up 4 guys. I said, hey, I'm starting a mastermind group here locally in Montgomery County. And I had no clue what I was doing. We went into this mastermind group, and for 52 weeks, we saw transformations happening left and right with these guys in this group. So that's where Level Up and Live was born, the mastermind group for Montgomery County business owners. And now we have this community, and all we do is serve, and all we do is service. And we're best equipped, Brandon, to help the people that we once were. And so that's where we're seeing these other business owners in this group be a part of something bigger than themselves. They're getting outside of themselves and looking to serve and impact. And that leads to that fulfillment, man.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Couldn't agree with you more, man. Wrapping things up, brother. We are out of time. Man, this has flown by, dude. Time flies when you're having fun, is the old
Enjoyed
saying.
every bit of it, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I know it's been nothing but valuable. So wrapping things up, brother, I know you have been nothing but invaluable. Your experience, sharing your trial and error and your tribulations and your wins, successes, and your experience has been so appreciative. I'm so grateful that you said yes today. I'm so grateful that we got you on the show. So outside of that, how can our audience, how can the Level Up and Live community support you?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, we have an amazing community on the north part of Houston there, Conroe area. Everybody is so awesome, and supporting us as a small business for Jeremiah's Italian Ice on 242 Harper's Preserve. Come on by, supporting us from our Facebook, Instagram, leaving good, positive Google reviews for others to see, to really spread that awareness. We have a great place. We love what we serve from a product. We love who we serve from a community and our own employees, our young people, and just having that place where you can come and enjoy with your family and know that you can spend some time, maybe rather than kind of just, hey, what do we do today? And sitting around and not being active. Come on out. We have cornhole. We've got Connect 4. We've got great patio space to really just run around and enjoy and burn some of that excess energy off if you want. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. We'll have all the links in the show notes as well. Quick story, and we'll wrap it up. So our team member, Lindsay, who you've met, she coordinates and does a phenomenal job. Shout out to Lindsay. Man, couldn't do this without you. And she's been a big part of coordination and communication. And we had a team meeting this past week, and she's like, Brandon Cron. And I was like, yeah. She said it like that. I was like, that name rings familiar. I was like, yeah, he's coming on, franchise owner, him and Holly, his wife. They own Jeremiah's Italian Ice Cream. And she goes, oh, that's right around our neighborhood. We saw the big event out there. And I was like, well, did you go? I don't know if she ended up driving by or they were headed somewhere, but you could tell she had the biggest smile on her face. She was just so excited that there was something. It just felt warm and welcoming. So I have no doubt that you and Holly have created that atmosphere and that environment. And so, yeah, make sure if you're listening to this, go out, support Brandon and Holly at Jeremiah's Italian Ice Cream. We'll have everything in the show notes so you can follow and connect with Brandon. Outside of that, for all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, share this with somebody who wants to hear it, needs to hear it. And outside of that, leave us a review. This is how we grow. Until next time, keep leveling up and living your best life.